My name is Mison Zuniga, and I serve as the Associate Vice President of College and High School Relations at Austin Community College. Welcome to the Forum. The Forum is a roundtable talk show that gives us a space to discuss openly pertinent topics concerning ACC and our community with various guests. Today, we are going to unpack some of the myths and stigmas associated with community colleges, but also discuss how community colleges are changing the future of higher education. With skyrocketing tuition costs at many universities, student debt is at an all-record high, and many are turning to community colleges to get a degree. And recently, we've seen trends with community college students and graduates posting on social media platforms like TikTok, promoting their community college and questioning ultimately, why is there still a stigma? These students also have been celebrating their successes with comments like being debt-free and right after graduating from community college, being fully employed as a nurse or in some other professional career, which they were able to do in a short period of time. On top of that, there's been a recent political push in DC from President Biden and First Lady Dr. Jill Biden with the American Families Plan, which was proposed earlier this year. This would guarantee free community college in addition to many more steps and initiatives making higher education truly available to everyone. Joining me today in this roundtable is Dr. Samuel Echevarria-Cruz, ACC Sociology Professor and former Liberal Arts Dean at the college, Mr. Martin Conrardy, Principal, Bastrop ISD, Colorado River Collegiate Academy, who works with our Early College High School program, Kelsey Sisler, ACC Student Affairs Communication and Outreach Coordinator, and last but not least, Jordy Villatoro, LBJ ECHS graduate from 2020, now attending Texas A&M as a student. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Let's get started. Generally speaking, I want to start with some of the actual myths out there that have been created around the stigma of community colleges. Citing a recent article from Community College Review, some of the top myths are: community college is easier than traditional four-year college or university. Community college professors are less qualified. Community colleges don't have any student life. Credits from community college won't transfer. Community colleges don't offer as much academic and financial support. The most successful people attend traditional four-year universities. Why is the perception so skewed and somewhat negative towards community colleges versus universities? Let's take these one by one. What out of these myths are inaccurate or completely false? Sam, can you speak to community colleges are easier than traditional four-year colleges or universities?
Yes, Mison, thank you. And it's great to be here. I'm passionate about community college. I'm passionate in a way that's very personal. I've sent 3 of my 5 children to ACC. And so I definitely want to speak to this, not just as a professor and as a former administrator, but also as a parent. And I'll say 2 things briefly. One is there seems to be, especially for those who haven't gone to both, there's probably a misperception in terms of how we teach or what we teach. Simply put, we teach freshman and sophomore level courses for the most part. And those courses are almost entirely structured around textbooks. And we teach the same textbooks that all of our four-year partners use for those freshman and sophomore level courses. So right at the outset, there's very little we can do to make it easier when we're all using the same textbook. We're using very similar assessments and so forth. And so, you know, right away, I've taught at 4 different institutions, 2 community colleges and 2 four-year universities. And I've taught the same course anytime and every time I've taught it in terms of the approach, the assessments, and the textbooks I use. So we're not taught in academia to make a distinction between the community college student sitting in front of us or the four-year. And second of all, personally, I wonder if students often perceive community college to be easier because we are there to teach. We are there 100% of the time to ensure that what is in the textbook, what is in the course, what's coming out of my mouth and what you're sharing with me all connects. And I wonder if it's just one of those cases where it seems easy because it's fun and because we're engaged and because this is what we do. I don't do research. I teach a lot. And through many mistakes, I hope I've gotten better and made my class as easy as possible because you enjoy it. So I hope that helps kind of deal with that myth.
Absolutely. And Sam, can you speak a little to the myth of community colleges don't have, or professors are less qualified?
Yes. We all have to be, we're all under the same accredited agency in terms of community colleges and four-year institutions in our region. And that's a very simple requirement to teach the kind of courses that we teach that transfer for academic credit. We all have to have at least a master's degree and or 18 graduate credit hours in the field we're teaching. And so that goes for our colleagues at Texas State, that goes for our colleagues at UT and throughout the entire state of Texas, private, public, 2-year, 4-year. So there's no distinction. Secondly, most of us, the majority of faculty at ACC do have terminal degrees. And we were all trained in the same academic disciplines and in the same academic programs as many of our colleagues at Baylor, at A&M and so forth. And so, to go to graduate school primarily is to go through a research program. So we're all kind of trained as researchers, and some of us fell in love with teaching and decided to make that our passion and our livelihood. But we're all colleagues, and we've all been through the same programs.
Thank you, Sam. Kelsey, can you speak to myth 3 that community colleges don't have any student life?
Yeah, of course. I'd love to. And this is a myth that's kind of near and dear to my heart because I actually used to work in our student life department. So we have an entire department dedicated to student life and making the ACC experience fun and engaging outside the classroom as well as inside the classroom. So there is a great community here, and I think you'd have a hard time finding a student who isn't involved in something outside of the classroom, whether it's being part of an organization, they're going to our events, they maybe just have a group of Riverbat friends that they're hanging out with outside the classroom. So that community definitely exists here at ACC. And I will say, I think your college experience is always going to be what you make it. So while there is a robust student life here at Austin Community College, I think it's up to each individual student to make that step, to click that join button and to show up at those events. But the infrastructure as far as student life is definitely here at ACC. It's a great community, a great vibe. And I'll talk more about all of what that looks like later. But I think it's just something that people assume is not there at a community college because there's not necessarily one single traditional student, but those resources definitely exist.
Thank you, Kelsey. And Jordy, as a previous student, can you speak to the myth of credits from community college won't transfer?
Yeah, this myth is definitely false because throughout the 4 years that I was in high school, throughout all the courses I took to earn my 60 credit hours, all of those hours transferred to my university that I'm in now, which is A&M, and all of the friends that I was with at ACC as well, all of their hours transferred to the universities that they're now in Texas. So it was definitely worth it, taking all those courses throughout the summers, all those 4 years that we were in, they definitely transferred, and it's really good.
Thanks, Jordy. And Martin, can you speak a little to myth 5 that community college don't offer as much academic or financial support?
Absolutely, Mison. First, let's talk about the academic support. I think, piggybacking on what Sam said, that community colleges are perceived easier. In large part, I think, is because of the academic support that community colleges provide on campus. Everything from, the Office of Students with Disabilities to, I think one of the #1 learning supports, academic supports for our kids has been the Learning Lab that exists on every single one of the ACC campuses. In addition to that, with students who are in particular situations like in early college, high school, or in a dual credit class at the high school level, they also have academic supports in their high school that work hand in hand with what's going on at ACC. So the fact that there's not academic supports, that's absolutely false. The students also have the opportunity to do some of the things that kids who go to a traditional 4-year college right off the bat out of high school. And and that is to hire, a personal tutor if they can do that, and to, I don't know, work with study partners and things of that nature, libraries. There's one other thing too that I want to talk about with the academic support with the early college high school program that is absolutely critical. We preach a cohort way of doing things. And so our students, they work together, they learn how to work together. They learn how to work together on the college campus. And as a consequence, just anecdotally, in our last graduating class, in class of 2021, we had 14 of our graduates go to one single university together. And so this cohort of kids is going to be very, very successful. Insofar as financial supports, I actually believe that the financial supports at the community college level are far greater than they are at private universities and public four-year institutions in this state and across the United States, across the world. Students who go to community college who need, if they're a traditional college, community college student who need financial support, have access to the same sets of grants that they would if they went to a public four-year university. They have access to the same sets of student loans that other students would be afforded as well. In addition, early college high school students and dual credit students, depending on where they go to school in the state of Texas or in other states, they may in fact be in a situation where this is essentially a scholarship. They get the entire program with no cost to themselves. So there is a plethora of sources of financial support and academic support for community college students.
Thank you, Martin. And Jordy, as an ACC graduate, what is your community college experience like? How did it prepare you for Texas A&M and your success there?
My community college experience was pretty scary, not gonna lie, because I was 14 years old taking college courses. I was still trying to figure out how to deal with high school life. I was like, oh man, what did I get myself into? But after going into ACC, taking a few courses, talking to all my professors and classmates, I got the hand of everything. I knew what ACC was expected of me. And luckily for the workload that the professors gave me, I was expected what was given to me when I went to a four-year, which is good because it kind of prepared me. And I just knew what was expected of me, and it was a great experience overall. After getting the hang of things, I definitely enjoyed the experience, and I would go back to being 14 years old again and do it all over again if I could.
Sam, taking a step back a bit, let's talk about the history of how community colleges came to be and why.
Wow, what a great, it really is a great story. And I think it reminds us and reminds me why we do what we do even today. Our history of community college starts roughly 120 years ago as growing four-year institutions started thinking about how to break up those 4 years and developed some small little junior colleges here and there. But then ISDs began to start preparing teachers for the growing public school demand, and junior colleges, community colleges started to fill that process. And then the Great Depression, the need for skilled workforce and a skilled labor force was so critical that, again, junior colleges, which became community colleges, stepped into that space to meet an incredible demand for our country. And then finally, and what's most important for us in the modern era is World War II and Vietnam and the incredibly important GI Bill, which brought many, many adult learners who did not have any higher education experience back from their service to this country and had a financial access to higher education. Well, it was community colleges that really again, stepped in and partnered with adult learners, and we began what we have now, and that is we teach everyone, and our DNA is kind of Frankensteinish in that we're put together for a lot of different needs in our country, and we want to meet those needs, and that's who we are. So we are always thinking about every part of the community. when we're at ACC.
Well, we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back with more in just a bit.
Start here.
Start here.
Start here.
Start here.
Well, welcome back to the forum, where we are defining the role of community colleges, the history behind them, and also breaking down some of the stereotypes that exist with my guests today. Let's focus more on Austin and the Central Texas region now. Martin, can you describe what it's like for high school students these days in Austin, navigating and figuring out their college and future plans? What's that pressure and stakes like for them?
Here are some things that I think are critical for people to know, all right? We've got a lot of kids in Central Texas who are first-generation students. And in fact, the early college high school model in Texas as it manifests is there to serve, in particular, the first-generation students. First-gen students don't have a legacy to rely on at home. They can't go ask mom or dad or an aunt or an uncle, I'm facing this obstacle. How do I get around it? Because there's not that base of knowledge within the family. All right. So that's a critical issue. The other thing too, I talk to a lot of kids now who do, their parent did go to college. They graduated. They graduated from university back in 1990. But they're operating on information that's based 3 decades ago. The college admission process, financial aid, creating your plan, degree plans. Oh my goodness, just within the last, decade itself, the changing degree plans are just unbelievable. So I think it's absolutely critical for students to understand that, and their families, that their information or their process of getting into a university is going to be either facilitated or obstacled by the information that they're operating on. So that's super, super important. In terms of the pressure and stakes that our kids are facing right now, there's a new, phrase that's out there, at least within, the kids that I work with at the high school level. It's called a good job. It's not just a job, but it's a good job. And you can actually look this up on the internet. The Georgetown University, their Center of Education on Education and the Workforce, they've defined a good job as a job that doesn't require a BA that a student or a person would make $55,000 a year on. With the BA, $65,000 a year on. And essentially, there's 3 tracks to these jobs. There's just the high school track. And that, kids getting a good job now out of high school, that is becoming a far more difficult road. And in fact, of the 3 roads, it is the most difficult to access a good job. Most of our kids who leave high school and don't get any other education, they end up, at least in Central Texas, existing in 2 major economic sectors. They're either in the service industry, service retail, or construction. That's essentially what's available to them. Another track is what Georgetown University called the middle track, which is essentially the community college track, where students earn a certificate or an associate degree. That is, of the 3 tracks, that's the track that's growing the fastest right now, especially in Central Texas. With healthcare being so important, ACC has taken on a leadership role in filling a critical economic need in healthcare. And then, of course, getting a BA is still the best way, BA or higher, to get what Georgetown University calls a good job. So the stakes are incredibly high for our students. And again, because of the number of students, high school students that we deal with in Texas in general, but particularly in Central Texas, economically disadvantaged students and first-generation students, these pressures, oftentimes I think these pressures don't hit these kids until adulthood has already hit them and families already hit them. And they realize at 24, 25, 26 years old, oh my God, what have I done? And what do I need to do now? So yeah, the pressure, the stakes, very, very high. Navigating the system is constantly evolving and changing.
Thank you, Martin. The acceptance rate to many colleges in Central Texas area are really competitive. UT Austin is 32% with only the top 6% of high school seniors per school that are automatically admitted now. But the list goes on and on. Martin or Sam, how is community college a true successful pathway to a four-year university?
Let me briefly say, because we're in Austin and because we have such strong partnerships with and growing partnerships with many of our four-year partners for decades now, going to ACC is a safe bet, a safe path to a good job because, as Jordy mentioned, those myths about credit transfers, that's a myth. You get great instruction. You get prepared for that first day you walk into class at A&M, UT, Texas State, UTSA, and you know exactly what's going to happen, and you're comfortable. And to build on Martin's point, it's at the ACC that I think we realize, and we're growing our cultural awareness to say, first-gen students, for example, they feel these pressures, but they also bring an incredible vibrancy. They bring a strength. They bring a vision and a hunger that is critical, and we want to leverage that. We have almost 2,000 students every fall transfer to different institutions. And I looked at some data, and when you transfer, we have our challenges for making sure that students, we support them as they're here. But if a student transfers, they do have, at least compared to Texas State as an example, they do have a 20% increase in graduation rates versus those who started at Texas State. And this is from Texas State's website and the state's data. So you are really in a good place if you started at ACC.
Thank you, Sam. Jordy, how did you come to ACC and what was your primary pathway to a four-year university?
So when I was in 8th grade, I learned that my high school was offering an early college program. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, you know what, I'm going to apply for it. I'm going to take the risk. So I did. And luckily I got in. But ACC definitely built my pathway for A&M because I really wouldn't have been prepared or, as mentally as strong as I would have been if it wasn't for the ACC courses. I took a lot of hard courses. I took sociology, I took history, Texas government, all of those. And if it weren't for all the articles that I read or all the essays that I wrote, studying for the 2 weeks before my exam, then I really wouldn't have been prepared. Going to A&M, it was a lot of heavy workload. So I think definitely going to ACC and all the courses and the professors that I was with and all the help that I got, it really prepared me for sure. And I'm glad it did.
Martin, for those students that don't get into the college of their choice, and if they never go through with the application process or even apply to any college, what happens next typically? Do some melt into the summer? Do some take a gap year? Or do some start working right away? What happens?
Mison, this is a particularly difficult group of kids to track. First of all, from high schools, and actually, with the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, it's even difficult for them to track. And that phrase "melt away," it's. I think that's exactly what happens to a lot of the kids. I mentioned before, their options are very, very limited. You have the service and retail industry, and you have construction. And particularly for kids who are in more of a rural setting, like in Bastrop County, their choices are the Hyatt, or I'm gonna work on a construction site. or work downtown Bastrop in one of the restaurants for $10 an hour. And it's a difficult choice. I wanted to go back to the question about community colleges and a pathway to a four-year university, because I think that is really the nut here. This is what's so important. I went and dug up some data. I love data, and I think it's critical. For the fall, or for the class of 2019, the percentage of students who graduated from high school and went to a four-year university was 21% statewide in Texas. For the class of 2020, that stat was 20%. Okay. Now, for schools like the Colorado River Collegiate Academy, other early college high schools, and ACC, I think, has 18. How many early college high schools ACC has right now? Our students, I've dug up our stats for those classes. 58% of the class of 2020 at Circa was Texas core, had completed the Texas core curriculum, which is essential when the kids go on to a four-year university. 78% of our class of 2020 graduated with an associate degree. 47% during that COVID year matriculated directly into a four-year university. I know those stats are going to be updated because our last graduating class 2021, 75% of our kids matriculated directly from ACC to a four-year school. So community college, as it manifests right now, at least as far as Austin Community College is concerned, is in fact, it's a thoroughfare to a four-year university.
Thank you, Martin. And in your eyes, is there a lack of knowledge of how to navigate a future career pathway? Where is that breakdown and why is that happening?
Yeah, there is. And I mentioned before about the information that students possess on their own. The guidance that students get at the community college level, and then also for us, we have a very specialized counselor. He's a college access specialist, and his role, his sole reason for existence, is to make sure that the kids have the best information and their families have the best information to act on. And so I think that this is the key breakdown, is the information that the student possesses at the time of these critical decisions.
Thank you, Martin. And I'm going to open this one up to all of our participants, but why aren't more grads right out of high school turning to community college to help bridge that gap to higher education and to get an associate or bachelor's degree?
Yeah, I think most people just don't turn to community college because, again, the stigma that it has. They probably don't think that they're going to be as successful as people who go to a four-year institution, or they're not going to get the same jobs as people do because they went to a community college and they didn't go to a high-ranking school like UT or A&M or Tech or whatever. So I think that's definitely one of the main reasons why students really don't turn to community colleges, which they should, because I mean they still get the same opportunities and they still get the same jobs as anybody does.
Well, we're going to take a short break, but when we're back, we'll talk about how Austin Community College is a direct pathway and a solution to many higher education next steps, whatever your goals might be.
Let's get started.
My name is Jackson. I want to be a scientist like Einstein. They do lots of experiments.
That's awesome. Oh, wow.
ACC students get to do experiments like this all the time.
And the best thing is to help people. Science rocks.
Remember, kids, you can be anything you want to be.
So in the past, turn of the century with the Industrial Revolution, the manufacturers would build all sorts of things. Over the years, it's become fully automated or more automated. Telecommunications, transportation, aeronautics.
Rockets that go into outer space, from chips that go into your cell phone to some of the fastest computers. And ACC is a bridge to get employed by manufacturers.
Welcome back to the forum, where we are discussing the myths associated with community colleges. I'd like to mention some stats and facts about Austin Community College, which you might not know about the college. For instance, ACC is nationally acclaimed two-year institution with various accolades and awards. ACC is a Fulbright program top producer of faculty. ACC has been honored with the Seal of Excellencia for serving the Latin community and closing the equity gaps. And ACC has 2 bachelor programs in nursing and computer science with 2 more in the works. We are also the #1 transfer institution into UT and Texas State, and ACC is 74% lower tuition compared to other schools in the area, with many scholarships available for all students. In addition, there are 100+ student organizations and clubs, which include intramural sports and an active student life organization for students to get involved with all 10 of our campuses. Sam, let's talk about the excellence here at the college. Describe the faculty and quality of programs. What's been your experience as a professor and former dean at the college?
I'll start out by saying, for our over 600 full-time faculty and over 1,200 adjunct faculty, when you come to ACC, when you apply, we make it clear right at the beginning that this is about teaching. This is about students. This is about your love of a discipline and your love of students. And we want you to be here if those two loves connect. And so the way we bring faculty in our hiring process and then our mentoring in that first year is very critical. And I think it leads to high quality experiences. Again, all of our faculty have master's and PhD degrees and other terminal degrees. And so, they come from that background. What we do at ACC well is that we make sure that we become, strong teachers. And in doing so, I think many of our faculty who are always in front of students are always thinking about how can I raise the quality of connecting with students? And sometimes that leads to a Fulbright where you do research and explore student experiences in other places. And so there's just a wonderful diversity of how faculty grow. And we make sure that they keep growing by offering all sorts of other opportunities to engage in different parts of the college.
Martin, what's been your experience on the early college high school side of things? How have you been impressed with ACC's work inside the high schools to help get students ahead and completing hours towards their college degree? How much money have these students saved in this program?
Our experience with our IHE partner, the Austin Community College, has been extraordinarily positive. The networking that goes on between ISD personnel, in particular the faculty and the administration of this high school, and Austin Community College, the campus at Elgin, has just, well, to put it bluntly, the thing that's most impressive is the end statistic, and that's the completion rate. If you take a look at the completion rate of early college high school students by semester, and then also by the number who become core complete and end up with their associate's degrees, you see that they the early college and high school students, their completion rate is the best. And I think that it's because of the academic support that the students receive both at Austin Community College and at their home school. So this partnership, in the evolution of the community college, the partnership between high schools and the community college itself, that's the next big step for this whole thing. In terms of money, we always throw this out here when we recruit students, because we have to get students who want to come to the early college high school. And Jordy will tell everybody, when you're talking to 13 and 14-year-old boys and girls, trying to tell them, come to this school, they're like, oh no, it's too hard. I can't do that. And they can. But one of the things that sells them and their parents is the fact that these 60 hours, and I pulled this from the tuition rates back in 2019. I haven't updated, but if you took the 60 hours that our kids earn at ACC for free under the early college high school system, it would cost their families $21,170 in the College of Liberal Arts at UT and Texas A&M University. and that's called direct, and that is only tuition and fees. That is not books. So basically what the students need to know is that going to an early college high school is in fact a huge scholarship because it covers 2 years of university work.
I'd like to build on that if I could, because I just have to plug and say, Martin talked about a good job. Do you all know that a good job is to be a professor at a community college? And you know, Jordy, you would be fantastic because you know exactly what that experience is. And I think we sell ourselves short at ACC not to tell students, have you considered the good job that it is if you get a master's degree or greater to come back and teach and teach students just like you. So I had to say that, sorry.
Kelsey, can you give us a sense of what student life is like here for our River Bats, especially for those looking for a college culture and experience? What does ACC provide and how do students connect beyond one another outside of the classroom?
It's so tough to come up with a definitive list of all the things that are part of a student's experience at ACC because there's so many different opportunities to get involved. But in general, for students who are looking for that college culture and that college experience, I came up with kind of a list of some of the things that ACC offers. But I do want to say too that I think getting engaged in your community outside the classroom is vital to the overall experience in college, because not only are you going to have more fun that way, but also it just gives you a bigger pool of a bigger network of people to help you out along the way, a bigger net of resources to help you out along the way. So to any student taking that next step beyond high school, it's vital to get involved in that college community. So what that looks like at ACC, I mentioned going to events. So in the student life department in general, they're hosting programming all throughout the year from the first week of school through finals week. So they're ranging from fun social events, important awareness events, and even sometimes like professional development workshops, so leadership development workshops, things like that. And student life isn't the only department hosting events either. Our career department is doing job fairs. There's a transfer week. There's always something going on campus. So just checking out that calendar on the ACC website, there's always something going on. Another opportunity is getting involved with the student organization, which has been mentioned multiple times. There's a lengthy list of different organizations you can get involved in. Cultural organizations, some just fun social groups. There's some that are focused on a certain area of study, so you can kind of get your hands dirty in the things that you're studying in the classroom. And I'll try to be quick with my list. There's so many different fun things going on, but we have our mentor and leadership program where you can get paired up with a mentor and they can help you not just with stuff at just all the life stuff that comes along with being a college student. We do have intramural sports, which I think is something people don't know happens at a community college. We do have sports. It's looked a little bit different being online. Right now we're sending out weekly workouts that you can do at home and doing like fantasy leagues and esports, things like that. But usually we have flag football, softball, volleyball, soccer. That's a great way to get involved, meet people, have some fun. There's lots of opportunities to volunteer, both on campuses and out in the community with some of our nonprofits that we partner with. And that's just in the student life department. There's also so many other things. There's the LGBT equity committee. You can get involved there. We have different programs for different specific types of students. For example, like our Austin Dare program is for first year college students looking to transfer, who want to celebrate Latinx culture along the way. It's a very specific organization, but there's really something for everyone. So it's just a matter of, like I said, taking that bold step and clicking that join button or stepping into an event. There's so many things that ACC has to offer. It's just up to each individual student to take that step to get engaged.
And what about our facilities? We have 10 campuses all over the district with learning labs, accelerators, libraries, and tutoring services. It's quite state of the art. Sam and Kelsey, how are these facilities an asset to our students and how do they use and thrive in them?
I think they're an asset because, and I think Martin mentioned it, you know, when a college student steps onto a college campus, we want them to see everything about what it means to be a college student. And one of those is academic support. And so I think it's critical that all of our campuses are designed to have almost all the full suite of academic support. Because when I was at UT, for example, I was in the dorm, I woke up and I had no choice but to look out on the campus and see, the library. And I was like, oh, I should go to the library. But our students are coming from different, residential environments. And so we want to make sure as soon as they step on campus, they see the library, they see all the resources, and it gets them ready for that work. I think that's critical. And secondly, for faculty, it pushes us to make sure that students know and are connected to all the incredible student life, academic, financial resources, community resources that almost all of our campuses offer.
And Jordy, what about student support services? Did you use any student support services while at college?
Yes, I definitely did. When I was taking courses like my governments, my histories, sociology, speech, and Englishes, I had to write a lot of essays. And I would go down to Learning Lab, and they make it known that they want to help you. They want to make it known that they want you to succeed. So I would go down there, and they would just proofread my essays. They would help me out. And when I was taking college algebra my senior year, I would also go down there and go with the math tutors, and they helped me out. Get an A in the class. And math is one of my toughest subjects, so I was very proud. I got an A in college algebra, and I would go every day after class down there with the tutors. So I recommend it for everybody to go downstairs and get some help.
Well, we're going to take another break, but we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Want to get ahead, save money, and start college strong while you're still in high school? Take college classes for free with dual credit at Austin Community College.
Welcome back to the forum. We're discussing community colleges and how students today are speaking out to celebrate them through their success stories and experiences. To end our show today, I want to discuss why ACC and how to get started if you want to get a college degree. Martin, what's the best way a current high school student to get started early? Why should they?
I'll tackle the first part of this first. They absolutely should. There's a window of opportunity to going to university. The older you get, the smaller that window of opportunity becomes. So if you graduate from high school and you do not have any college experience by the time you graduate from high school, your window of opportunity for going to a four-year university and earning that BA or higher has grown immeasurably small. So students should absolutely speak to their counselor. In terms of when the best time to get started is concerned, it depends. It depends on when the student asks that question of themselves. We recruit kids for the early college high school system right out of middle school. So we've got a cadre of kids who are 7th and 8th graders who already know that they want to be on the college path. And the early college high school also PTECs and T-STEMs. These are also other schools, other types of schools that kids can access dual credit in. They can also access dual credit in their traditional high school. That doesn't typically happen though until the student is in their 11th grade year. I try to sell kids on the deal. Don't wait until you're an 11th grader to decide on college. You need to be an 8th grader to make that decision. College is for me.
Sam, what about someone who just graduated high school? What's the best way to get started in their higher education journey at ACC?
Well, given what we just heard, if someone wasn't able to make that connection, first and foremost, I hope they get the message that it is never too late, and ACC is a perfect place to start. We have flexibility online in multiple campuses, multiple programs. So I think the hardest part is figuring out, we have workforce and certificate programs that are great for not just occupational goals, but even further academic goals. And then of course we have our associate's degree and all the pieces of that, a field of study, a core completion that can springbolt you to the next level. And then we now have bachelor's degrees and we'll have more soon. And so I tell students, it's a lot of information. Don't do it by yourself. bring your family in, bring your friends in, have fun, and then when you're ready, there are many people who want to talk to you and who want to walk with you. And I think that's also key because many of our students are coming from communities where there isn't a lot of college going kind of experience. And so we want to get the whole family involved because there'll be some others in the family and peers and that could benefit, didn't have any idea that we had certain programs that they really have a passion for and want to grow in. So that's what I would recommend.
Kelsey, paying for college is a huge obstacle and barrier for many families. How do we assist with this as a college and help find the money for our students?
Yeah, paying for college can be a big obstacle on this journey. And at ACC, we like to say that ACC is for everyone. So with that comes making it extremely important to eliminate that affordability barrier as much as possible for our students. So ACC offers a lot of different financial aid options for our students. Almost all of our students are eligible for some kind of assistance, whether that's grants, scholarships, there are thousands of loans, or maybe work study opportunities that they could be eligible for. And our financial aid office will work with each individual student to explore those options. They will sit down with you and help you fill out scholarship applications and the FAFSA form. So they're really going to work with students on an individual basis to get access to the funds that they need to achieve higher education. And on top of that, ACC already has a competitive tuition rate. I think it was mentioned earlier that we're 74% lower than other area colleges. Low or no cost for textbooks. There are interest-free payment plans that can help even if you don't qualify for some of those financial aid options. And then we understand that financial needs are ever changing. So with COVID happening the past however long it's been happening, we've had the Emergency Relief Fund that has helped students experiencing COVID-related financial strain. So we have things like that as well. And then on top of that, outside of our financial aid department, we have the Student Money Management Office who helps you manage your money while you're a student attending college. And that can help prepare you for paying next semester's tuition. And there's just a whole list of wraparound services for helping you with financially managing college. And then lastly, ACC has a commitment to working with the larger Austin community. So we have a huge list of community resources that can help you with things like housing or paying bills. We just have an endless list of different resources that are available to our students, whether it's at ACC or outside of ACC, to help you make that higher education dream come true.
Jordy, why did you decide to come to ACC, and what did the college help you accomplish?
I came to ACC because I knew it was going to be extremely beneficial for me in my future. And I was like, if I put my foot in this at an early age, then I know I'm not going to be wanting to quit. And then later I'm going to be like, all right, I want to keep going and I want to keep doing this as long as I can. So that definitely helped me out. So I think it really did prepare me emotionally, physically, and it matured me. It accomplished me a lot of things. You know, I learned a lot from my classmates and from the professors, and I still keep in touch with them. And the transition to community college to four-year university it was amazing. It was super smooth. I knew what I was getting myself into, and all of the resources that ACC provided me with was just amazing. You know, I really couldn't have been more appreciative and just thankful for what ACC has done for me. And I just hope we keep doing this for their incoming students.
Martin, why ACC? How has it helped your community and students over the years, and why should people consider enrolling today?
ACC is the college presence in Bastrop. There is no other college presence here in this entire county. And so there's a huge partnership, obviously, between Bastrop and the community college. We graduated 4 classes from the Colorado River Collegiate Academy, and that's over 120 associate degrees in Bastrop County. So Austin Community College has had a huge impact on the education level of high school graduates in this county. By far, the biggest impact of any institution of higher education. The accessibility of ACC, both financially and amazingly enough, geographically, is great for our students in Bastrop. We have two primary campuses that our kids access, Riverside and Elgin. And again, we've talked about the lower cost. So that accessibility is the number one reason, I think. Well, I shouldn't say the number one reason. It's definitely a factor. The quality. Austin Community College has very, very high standards. And that's seen, we keep going back to this, that's seen in the matriculation of ACCTV graduates into four-year universities.
Sam and Kelsey, why do you teach and work here at the college? What's the best part about ACC as a faculty and staff member?
This forum is an example of why I'm here. Our commitment to doing whatever it takes to get the message out that we are for everyone and there's a place for you here is something that's very important. I'm from the border area and didn't grow up seeing a higher education institution reaching out to me and making sure that I had a pathway. And there are hundreds of thousands of us who didn't have that experience. And so I wanted to give back. I want to be a part of that community. And that's why I'm here. And that's why I force my children to go to ACC, whether they like it or not. And of course, like everything else, once they taste it, they see it's good and they enjoy it and they say thank you. So I know it must be okay if even my own kids like it.
I agree with everything that Sam just said, but also I think everyone at ACC kind of, whether you're an employee or a student, looks at you as a whole person. So not all of our students look the same way, and whether they're getting advised or people are offering resources to them, they look at them as a whole person. So if you're a single parent with 3 kids who's working a full-time job, they're going to recommend a different degree plan or different resources for you than someone fresh out of high school who wants to go to college full-time. And so it's not a one-size-fits-all approach that they try to push on you. Everyone looks at you as a whole person and tries to offer tools and resources to you that will help you in your individual journey. And I feel that as an employee, and I think we do a good job at doing that for our students too. And I think that's so wonderful about ACC.
How can we help to change the narrative about community colleges and recognize more of the great work happening?
So I still keep in contact with some of the students who I went to high school with. They always like to reach out to me, and whenever they have questions about what classes to take or which professors to take, and I always recommend them the best professors that I took. So I think definitely telling them to, even if they don't get into their 4-year institution, staying at ACC is still great. You're still going to get the help that you're going to get. You're still going to get the career that you're going to want. And even if they don't go to high school with me, I still tell a lot of younger kids, especially in middle school, like my little cousins, they always look up to me and they're always telling me what, they want to do something like me and they want to go to college. So I think just helping people out and just informing them about my experiences throughout high school and throughout ACC is just going to give them better information and just hopefully motivate them even more.
I agree with Jordy. I think that each of us within our professional and personal circles needs to disabuse people of these myths that surround community colleges today. And the more that people are operating with information that's based in reality and fact, I think the more community colleges are going to grow, and Austin Community College, their particular impact in Central Texas will grow.
Yeah, I'll add, as a reminder, more than half of all incoming freshmen start at a community college in higher education. So we are the majority. We are the normal. I really think I'd like to see more faculty, especially faculty who look like many of the students who tend not to come to ACC. I'd like to see more faculty and people like Jordy go out into the community and show them that they belong. We're here, and that they do belong, because that there's not just a gap in myth about community college, but there's a myth about college among many of our communities that have been marginalized. And so we need to break those myths by being out there and making sure that we show them that you are here already and we want you.
In addition to those people going out and spreading the word to the community, I think from a communication standpoint, wanting to highlight those stories like Jordy. It was so nice to be on this panel with you today and get to hear your story and just I think we can talk about how all the resources ACC has to offer all day long, but seeing real life examples of people who started here and got there is just, the more that we can promote those and highlight those, the more they see how to really connect those dots and how great community college can really be.
Thank you so much for watching the forum today. We hope you enjoyed our discussion about community colleges and the benefits they provide many students through various ways. You can explore all that ACC has to offer at austincc.edu/starthere to get started today. If you have questions, we have counselors and advisors standing by to help guide any student. Thanks to our esteemed guests for participating in this conversation. I'm Mison Zuniga. We'll see you next time.